Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge, and always a pleasure to have your company. Bit of a replay in the background there. Apologies for that, but we are back to review on a preview. Should say can't review without a preview. Previewing the North Melbourne clash on Good Friday, regular fixture for us in recent seasons, and we are coming off the back of our first win for season 2025. It was much needed, obviously, goes without saying. And we have a chance to string together consecutive wins that we haven't had since I can't even remember when. It would have been mid last season because we beat North, beat West Coast, and that is pretty much it. I think those are the last two teams that we've, funnily enough, beaten. And this time we are having the chance to string wins against them back to back. So we have Josh joining us. How are you, mate? I hope you are well. I was going to record this and put it up as just a premiere type video instead of doing a live stream, but I am strapped for a little bit of time. So the easiest way for me is to do this through StreamYard. So the beauty of this is, of course, you get to tune in live. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to flick them through in the comment section and I'll whack them up on screen. So let us have a look at our opponent for round 6, of course, North Melbourne, as I said. And there's a few things to kind of go over. We will, of course, first and foremost look at the teams. And there was a little bit of a surprise with regards to an omission that I think a lot of people were calling for last week in the form of Dockers. I'm surprised that he, first and foremost, survived heading into the game against the Eagles, but from what it looks like is Voss and co were kind of giving Doc a bit of a, free pass to see how he would fare against an opponent that was arguably one of the worst in the competition, a bit of an easy kill, for lack of a better word. And he didn't really capitalize. And I spoke about it in the review video that he didn't blow my socks off. He was kind of thereabouts, but went missing at various stages and wasn't the Doc of old. And it is really sad to see, but it looks as though that, potentially the game has passed him by. He's, lacking speed. Confidence is a big one, but to see him out of the team, not through a forced omission, through injury, is, something that I think we probably didn't expect we'd see, but it's a shame, but, the club is bigger than the individual, as we know, and hopefully he can build upon, a bit of form and confidence in the VFL and bounce back to what we know and love with regards to what Doc can do at senior level. Obviously, Harry is out through concussion and Brody Kemp is unfortunately out for the remainder of the season, which is just terrible for him. He has an Achilles injury, and we're wishing him all the very best in his recovery because he sustained an ACL injury in his junior years, had to obviously overcome that and delayed his sort of start and preparation for AFL level. So to go through another major injury like that is pretty shit. But the man who is also named in the outs, Sam Doherty, knows that all too well. So for the ins, no surprise, Blake Acres makes his way back in. Lewis Young, that was always going to be a given. I spoke about that in the review episode covering the West Coast game because it's like for like. Louis has done it covering for Harry in recent games where he has been missing. So, and to his credit, it's actually looked pretty good. So, reward for effort and come straight back in. Lige also a welcome inclusion, much needed. I guess his aerial work is incredible. His ability to read the play is really underrated, I think, and he's going to add an extra layer, and no doubt will probably play. It's interesting because he's kind of playing more as that half forward or high half forward role that Doherty can play, or even push up into the wing as well. So Akers comes back in to play on the wing. We have Matt Carroll. Interestingly enough, I got there in the end. That he is named on the wing. So I thought Carroll would be in defence, and I thought maybe Sauce might be shifted forward to cover the loss of Kemp, and obviously Lewis Young being there to cover the loss of Harry. But wouldn't surprise me to see if if that is if the magnets are swung around in game. But I guess with Elijah there, he's kind of going to be playing that old role that he does play that I mentioned as that high half forward. So good to see him come back in with an opportunity. In terms of North Melbourne, they welcome back a long-awaited arrival of Georgie Wardlaw. He's battled countless injuries and is an incredible player. So good to see him back playing at senior level. Out goes Riley Hardiman. Now, I was reading an article just earlier with regards to, it was in The Age, and I'll see if I can whack it up on screen here because it is very, very interesting. It's actually querying, I can't speak tonight, apologies, querying Paddy Cripps, saying that he's quite bullish about the Blues and just running through some key stats. So, Cripper, the quote was, "It probably sounds odd when you're at 0-4, but we feel like a lot of our footy is in order." And what he's referencing there and what the article kind of goes through is, I guess the positives of our game. And that is related to the work that we do in the contest. So the key metrics here, in terms of the left-hand column, is contested possession differential and where we rank in terms of, compared to other teams in the league. So contested possession differential, we're second. Ground ball get differential, we're fourth. Loose ball get differential, seventh. Hard ball get first. Free kick differential, fourth. But, that's by the by. And contested mark differential, second. So it looks as though, in terms of the work that we're doing in that area of the ground is really good. And then it goes on to say that, in terms of the defense side of things, which I think is pretty interesting, we've got the third best defense, conceding only 71.6 points per game. And if you compare it to North Melbourne, they concede 110.2 points per game. It goes on and speaks about, I guess, the weight of work that Wieders is doing. Nick Haynes, his solid work despite, virtually a bit of a sluggish start. And then, of course, Sauce doing an incredible role in his new, spot in defense. Then if we go through in terms of they delve into that's the hardball get differential and what it looked like against West Coast. But I'll just scroll down a little bit further because it mentions, so where we obviously need to improve things, and we all know that. We watch the Baggers week after week, but it explains here that up forward, we are struggling because we're currently the 15th best scoring team in the competition, which, in other words, is what the fourth worst. So averaging 74.2 points per game and 17th for scores and goals per inside 50. So, I've spoken about that in previous videos with regards to how inefficient we are inside 50 and the number of inside 50s that we're getting versus the number of scoring opportunities that we're having. Chalk and cheese, like they should be much more aligned, but they're not. And, the loss of H and Kempy is going to hurt us even further. So we need to rejig things. And H is going to come back next week. And, do we potentially persist with Lewis Young up forward? Or do we swing things like I said and Sauce goes forward and Lewis Young goes in defense? I wouldn't really like that because I think it would keep us at a disadvantage. Just with regards to, Lewis Young probably in better form up forward compared to when he's in defense. And I think the value of Sauce and what he's shown when he is in defense probably counts for more than when he's up forward. But having said that, he can play either end, as we know. He's in really good form, really good touch. But just wanted to touch on that. And Joshy, g'day, mate. You've said, I can't believe I didn't bring in Nick Dacos. You're talking about super coach there. And yeah, I brought him in, I must say, and very happy that I put the VC on him. But Merritt, I think he's a really good pick, mate. And he'll hold you in good stead because he faces West Coast, who he averages an insane score against historically. So not to worry there, mate. Wayne, how are you, mate? I think Young does a job up forward. I think he will as well. We need someone of his height. He doesn't probably put enough body work on, I don't think, for a bloke of his size. That's probably part of his game that he needs to work on. But I'm really surprised as well that we've run with as many small forwards as what we have. Like last week, I think we had 4. We're running with 4 again. Like we've got Dirds, Will White, we've got Modders, and there's another player I'm missing here. Dirds. Oh, Fogarty. I guess if you want to count him as a small forward, but he's more of that pressure forward. But I don't know. It's really strange setup, I think, in having that many small forwards. Corey Durden, though, we'll speak to him. I think he has an opportunity to really string together 2 good games. What he produced last week against the Eagles was incredible. And, I spoke about it in the review video where he actually performed really, really well against the Eagles last year. I'd love to see him play more of that high half forward role, which is what he did last year against the Eagles, and did it really, really well. Great two-way running. He's speedy. He's quite skillful, I think, in terms of his field kicking, and really underrated. But played a really good, genuine small forward game last week. Not flying for pack marks like Motlop does, and it really does annoy me seeing him do that. But Dirds, just smart play, like stayed on the deck. When the ball hit a pack, ball came off the pack, roved it, kicked a goal. I think there was maybe 2 of those 4 goals that he kicked that were courtesy of that, intuition and just playing to his strengths as a small forward. I think we probably expect a bit too much from Dirds, but he showed, in the VFL, part of the reason why he came back into the senior team was his pressure that he was applying. I think he had double-digit tackles, and, it's something that I think he can unlock. And yeah, would love to see him continue on with that. Cooper Lord, thank the Lord, pardon the pun, that he actually stays in the team, because he adds so much to the team, and I'm surprised that he's been sub numerous times, and also, in terms of being omitted. So it just doesn't really make sense, but good to see he stuck around in the team. In terms of, I guess, key matchups, in the middle, I think, is where it's going to be dictated more often than not in terms of the dominance we saw last week against the Eagles, but it's a different kettle of fish here against North. Finn O'Sullivan, I mean, they are quite young and raw. Colby McKercher is really underrated, I think. Tom Powell, serviceable. But the inclusion, I think, of Wardlaw is going to help them massively. They've obviously got LDU, who's probably their primary ball winner, incredible mover. And Jai Simpkin, he's actually sort of reinvigorated his career, being a bit part forward and bit part midfielder as well. So there's that. But I think the key to all of that is seeing who wins the differential on the ruck between Cherry and TDK. Looking at last year, let me see if they've got the breakdown for last year's game. But from memory, I think that was the game when TDK hurt his foot, and something else he hurt as well, because Cherry just cannonballed into him at various stages, which was pretty shit. But I just wanted to see a breakdown there. Might be in, if I go down, here we go. So last time we played him was round 19 last season. And that was the score there, 16-11, 107 to 14-4, 88. And that game as well, I think North hit the front, or were very, very close to doing so. And it was, they did actually. There you go. They hit the front in the second quarter, and we're up by 11 points at halftime. And then we worked our way back, kicking 7 goals in the third quarter, and then 2 in the last, and they kicked 2 in the last as well. But let's have a quick look in terms of just the breakdown of stats. So it was quite even in terms of disposals. Inside 50 is very even. Disposal efficiency is quite even enough. Efficiency inside 50 is where we capitalized on the previous occasion. So there we go, hitouts. So Cherry ended up winning the hitouts almost, well, he did more than double. So that's going to be a crucial matchup again. I think TDK this time around, albeit, I mean, he was off injured for a stage of that game, and probably speaks to why Cherry was dominant in the hitouts overall, but looks as though he had his measure. And from memory, I think he did, because I was at that game. And clearances, very, very even across the board. Stoppage clearances, contested possessions, virtually even. Uncontested possessions, very, very similar, 14 in the favour of North. And no surprise there, North having 10 more turnovers. But across the board, like marks, we have to really tighten up on that around the ground, uncontested possessions, all that sort of stuff, contested marks. But yeah, so the one thing I'm looking for us to build upon from last week's game, and something that disappointed me, and I spoke about it again in the review video, so go and check that out if you're keen for my more, I guess, closer look at the stats and everything against West Coast, because the one thing that I was disappointed with was our lack of tackling. And West Coast beat us in that area, and I know that we had our hands on the ball more often than not, but that is always a cop-out because you're still able to apply tackles, apply pressure, everything else when you don't have the ball. And we don't have the ball 100% of the game. So I think that's something that we need to work on, and something that I'm looking for us to be in the positive differential for against North come the end of tomorrow's game. So we'll see how we go with that. In terms of just looking at other matchups, spoke about the midfield, obviously TDK versus Cherry. Sorry, this is the last game. That was last year's game. And I can't get back to because the AFL website is shite. There we go. Matchups. I think in defence versus their forward line, like Darling hasn't been in the best form. Larky's always a threat. And Paul Curtis, I find as well, he's normally a bit of a pest to us, likewise Zerha. So that's going to be interesting to see if we can quell those. But I think we will be able to. I think our defence is stronger than their forwards, apart from maybe Larky. Sheasel up forward is interesting. I think I expect him to play through the middle or off half back. He's an incredible player, one of my favourites outside of those that wear navy blue. So he is someone that we need to stop and be very, very mindful of. But yeah, outside of that, interesting. It's good to see as well that Pitnet hasn't come back into the team. I was worried he would and cramp the style of TDK, but I don't think we need him, really. This isn't the game for it. Other guys on the emergency list, like Jordan Boyd, I think he's been pretty unlucky that he hasn't been able to keep his spot. Was unfairly sort of omitted, I think. But outside of that, that's it. Hoping for a really fantastic game, good Friday footy, and yeah, let's see if we can come away with the win. Wayne, you've said, yes, mate, so agree. What do you think about Akers straight back in? Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm a fan of Akers. I know he can be very, very wayward with his kicking. That's part and parcel, and we kind of ride those bumps because, you know, Akers at his best is incredible, especially with his 1%ers and everything else, as we know. So I'm not so against it, I think. You know, I guess, you know, if you're comparing to Hollands, who's kind of bided his time in the seconds, yes. Blake, does he need to go back and get form? I don't know. Maybe not yet, I don't think. I think we can kind of allow him to come back to the team from the get-go because he is a valuable player, and especially against North Melbourne. We could probably, you know, afford to do it without flirting with form, knock on wood, of course. But Wayne, you've said lack of tackling seemed to be the way the game was played by both sides last week. And that's the other thing as well. Wanted to mention, and yeah, just with regards to Akers, yeah, his form hasn't been the best. He hasn't been at the top of his game. And, you know, I guess if we've allowed Doherty to have as much chance to reverse his form, we could probably afford the same to Blake, but, you know, it shouldn't be a standard. So, yeah, I do agree, Wayne, to an extent there that, yeah, if you're out of form and you're out of the team, you should be able to, you know, work your way up from the VFL. But yeah, lack of tackling, and also the fact that West Coast was so the way that they moved the ball out of defence was just with ease. We didn't apply any tackling. And again, tackling pressure, full stop. Both teams just literally slingshotting the footy back and forth, which is just terrible. And, you know, North Melbourne are a better team than West Coast. We do that against North Melbourne. We don't apply any pressure by trying to contain the footy inside our forward 50 through kick-ins. We're going to get cut out. And you do it against Brisbane, you're going to get cut up even more. So, yeah, that's the other area of the ground that I think that we need to really, really tighten up on. There were stages there and individual performances that look really good. Matty Cottrell looked incredible. His inside 50 work, where he was kicking inside 50 and hitting up targets, leading targets at that, was really, really good. So, you know, there's a number of guys there that have work themselves into form, albeit off the back of one game. We just want to see that continuity, that consistency that has been lacking in our games across 2025. But I think that's it, ladies and gents. We might leave things there. We'll keep it short, keep it sharp. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. And we will be back with our review of the North game, this game itself. So we will catch you in the next one. All the very best and go Baggers.
Have you